Hello, fellow human light beings. This is Mahadeva the Thunder Wizard, and you are on the thunderwizard.com channel. We are broadcasting this message live right now on YouTube on October 8th here in Australia, October 7th if you're watching it live in other parts of the world. We also have videos posted on Rumble and BitChute and Odyssey. Sometimes some videos get onto Rumble that don't show up here on YouTube, so be sure to check out all the channels. This is the Solar Flash update for October 7th and 8th. And today I'm going to share with you an extremely important message to humanity coming directly from the light beings. And it is having to do with anger. And what they say is that anger keeps you trapped in the 3D prison. And anybody basically knows that, and everybody likes to be free of anger, but you may not understand some of the pitfalls that come, especially with resentment, with feelings of anger that don't go away. I'm going to talk to you about those, and I'm going to tell you what you can do to free yourself from that, so you never have to feel that continuously throughout your life. Hi, welcome back to the channel. Again, this is Mahadeva the Thunder Wizard. If anybody is in Queensland, Australia, I am going to be speaking at a UFO meetup in, when is that? That is the 29th of October. And you can see the where it's going to be at. So I've never done this before. This will be the first time I've spoken at some kind of UFO event, so that'll be interesting for me. But if you're anywhere near there, go check it out. And on this channel, as you know, what I do is I don't just talk. I give you practical tools to achieve a complete shift. I want to teach you to accomplish what I am seeking to accomplish for myself. And it is my goal to completely shift out of this reality and go into the next one where we don't have the kind of crazy nonsense that's happening right now. Just as I'm getting ready to make this video, mainstream media is reporting that Israel is now at war. Yesterday they weren't, today they are. And all people are dying and being taken captive and all kinds of really horrible things going on over there. And so this is a really good distraction. It distracts you away from your path. So while I send out positive energy to all people affected anywhere in the world by any conflict whatsoever, unless you yourself have to deal with it personally, my recommendation is don't let it distract you from your goal. The best thing we can do for anybody in the world is to focus on our evolution and shifting ourselves up and being as helpful to others as we can in the process. So on this channel, what I give you are practical tools. And we will talk about that. I'm specifically going to be giving you practical tools on how to shift your energy. Before I get into that, just be aware that there are free tools on this channel. If you go to the YouTube channel page and you go to the playlists, you can begin doing the free guided interdimensional meditations. You can be doing the free Qigong meditations. And today we're going to be focusing on some of the things that we learn in the 12 steps to 5D, which I believe people will do intuitively in the 5th dimension. But in the 3rd dimension, it is not intuitive. It is something we have to actually work toward. We're going to be talking about that. So please take advantage of that. If any of those practices, the meditations, the energy work, if your body responds positively to that and you can feel healthier, happier, and more hopeful about your life, then I strongly recommend you go to thunderwizard.com website, subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong. You can unsubscribe whenever you want. Also, my books, the most important book in regard to what we're going to be talking about is called The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. You can get my books at michaelwilliamdenny.com. You can get them on Amazon, Kindle, Audible, And we talk about the light beings and the messages that they have brought to us in the book Extraterrestrials Are Coming to Earth, as well as Interdimensional Revolution. And if you want to save thousands, and I'm not kidding, thousands of dollars on all of my video teachings, including the most powerful, never before released publicly to the world, Maoshan Spirit Fighting 5-element forms, you can go here to 923.thunderwizard.com. Again, you got to be saving something like $4,000, I don't know, over $4,000. So go check it out. All right. Solar Flash update October 8. Light being message to humanity. Your anger keeps you in 3D prison. Now, I want to say that it's extremely important that you know the difference between resolving a resentment and stuffing your anger. These are two completely different things. The vast majority of people who virtue signal that they don't have anger are the angriest, most resentful people I've ever run into. And that is because people guilt themselves out of their anger. So I want you to be clear on this. I am not telling you not to feel anger. I am not telling you that. I would never tell you that. I think that is incredibly abusive. Gaslighting you out of your feelings, whatever they are, is incredibly abusive. And that is one of the reasons, it's like the main reason people get cancer. They have unresolved anger that they are stuffing down and they're not experiencing it. Now, the problem is, many of us don't know what to do with the anger when we have it. And so what ends up happening is you've got angry people like we have, right now in Israel and Palestine. These guys are blowing each other to hell, and they're obviously very angry. So that's obviously they're not stuffing their anger down. They're acting on it. They're acting on their anger in the most explosive way possible. So acting on your anger is not the same as having your anger. Stuffing your anger and acting out on it, both are actions that are designed so that you don't feel it. You're trying to get rid of the feeling. You think by blowing up at somebody that somehow that will relieve you of your anger and you'll feel better. You also think by stuffing it down and denying it that will somehow relieve you of the feelings. Neither of those things are true. And they're both destructive to you and to other people. People who have more of a narcissistic approach to anger, they act out and they lash out at people self-righteously, and they cause other people harm, thinking that causing somebody else harm is somehow going to resolve how you feel. But when people stuff their anger down, they also are incredibly destructive. They hurt people all the time. In fact, some of the most destructive people I've ever run into, and that goes right up until today, are very passive-aggressive, codependent people who virtue signal to the world that they're here to heal everybody and take care of everybody's problems. And what ends up happening is that they keep a list. Whenever they do something for you, it's never done for free. It's never done out of true empathy. It's a list. They keep a list and they remember the date and the time and what they did and how much it cost. In the moment, they tell you it's a free gift, enjoy. But then as the days and the weeks go by, before you know it, a few months down the road or maybe even years down the road, they explode all over you and they say, I did this for you and I did that for you. And so it's very destructive. So there's anger only has one function, and its true healthy expression is when there is a direct physical threat to your survival. You're driving down the road and somebody cuts you off and almost makes you crash. It is normal for there to be a flare-up of anger. Don't do anything about it because you can get yourself killed that way. But, scream and yell inside the car and be angry. And then when you realize that you're safe, you go, okay, I'm okay. I didn't crash. I'm going to be all right. And that anger will dissipate. That is the normal response of anger. If it continues to linger, it now has become a resentment, which means to re-feel. So imagine if somebody tried to cut you off in traffic and you swerved out of the way and you were angry for 30 seconds or 5 minutes. Imagine talking about that every day for 10 years. Imagine starting a YouTube channel talking about people cutting you off in traffic. I mean, that isn't any different from political channels that talk about politics. And, the other party this and the other party that. Or, the narcissist this or the whatever. Channels that are devoted to that. It's the exact same phenomenon that's happening inside their mind. They're replaying something that happened in the past, and they're re-experiencing all of those negative emotions as well as all of the negative hormones and chemicals that are released in the body, and it creates its own self-perpetuation. But what people don't realize about resentment, it's not just that it's an unresolved wound, because that's what it is. If you have a resentment towards somebody, a person, a place, an institution, God, the universe, false beings of light, draconian lizard people, I don't care what it is, your parents, I don't care what it is. If you continue to have anger about it, it means it's a wound. It's a wound that isn't healing. And the reason why it isn't healing is because you don't know your part in it. If you were conscious of what you did to help create that, you would then focus on the instinct within you, the actions that you took, the feelings you had, the expectations you had. You would fix those so that you wouldn't be in pain. And then you can be in a true state of forgiveness. So, one of the drawbacks of the Christian religion isn't that you're taught to forgive, and again, I find Christians to be some of the least forgiving people I've ever encountered. Some of them are very forgiving, but many of them aren't. But even though in that religion they teach you to forgive, they don't tell you why. They just tell you that unforgiveness is a sin. So you're filled with guilt. And what is guilt? Guilt is anger turned inward. Whenever you feel guilty, any of you listening to me, if you have guilt about anything, your experience is that you're angry at yourself. That's what you think is going on. You think, I'm a bad person, I'm mad at myself. But the truth is, if you have guilt, it's because you're angry at somebody else. And you can't tolerate that. You can't tolerate that. It's a sin. So you then tell yourself you're not allowed. Stop being angry at that other person. You're the bad person. And this isn't what I'm talking about. When I say knowing your part, has nothing to do with guilt. Guilt is simply anger that instead of lashing out at others, you lash out at yourself, but you still unconsciously are mad at the other person. You're full of defensiveness. You feel attacked. You feel victimized. And since you can't tolerate that because you're weak or you're bad or sinful, you then turn around and beat yourself up. And then your experience is, I feel so guilty. I feel so bad that I did that. Oh my God, I want to kill myself because I did that thing. Again, suicide is anger. When you take your own life, it's because you're angry at somebody else. So there's been people on here that ask me, is it okay for me to, I don't even know what the word is. There's some new euphemism that people use for offing themselves. And I don't catch it all the time, but I'm now getting better at catching these things. But they have a euphemism for wanting to off themselves, end their existence. And they don't realize that their desire to end their existence is because they're full of rage at something or someone else. And they can't tolerate that, so they focus it on themselves. All right, so before we go any further, you should know that on this channel that there is a playlist called the 12 Steps to 5D. I recommend everybody do that. The only thing that will happen is your life will get better. So when it comes to anger, when it's specifically resentment, re-feeling, resentire, to feel again, to continue, to keep feeling. So resentment is an anger that won't go away. If you walk around the house talking to yourself, as I have done many, many times in my life, about what I should have said to somebody, that's called a resentment. If you're thinking about it years later, months later, days later, it's a resentment. And what ends up happening is that that resentment puts you on a hamster wheel of death that you never get off. And what ends up happening, it's a record skipping. The reason why the resentment keeps coming back is because the record is skipping. I don't know, remember records? Anybody watching has been old enough to actually remember when records used to skip? You'd have to go and put it back onto the thing so it would play. It's a record skipping. It's a glitch, and it won't go away on its own. That's the worst part about it. It doesn't go away on its own. And what's happening is that you feel as though your essence has been attacked. Somebody looks at you the wrong way. I mean, this happens all the time. What are you looking at? I mean, people will go to blows, they'll pull out guns and kill each other because somebody looked at them. What, you looking at me? What are you looking at? I don't like the way that guy's looking at me. I don't like what he said. People go to war over things that are said because they're offended and they have to defend their honor. Even actions that are taken. Again, if somebody does something to cause you harm, there's nothing you can do to go back in time and make that thing go away. No amount of attacking the other person is going to go back in time and make them stop harming you. It's over. There's nothing to be accomplished. And what is happening is that there is a sense of your identity that you believe has been minimized. Your identity, who you believe you are. You believe that your essence has been attacked. And so the resentment isn't about what somebody said or what somebody did. The resentment is your experience that you no longer have the identity intact. Your identity is no longer intact. And so you're actually fighting out of your insecurity to prove your own existence to yourself. It's got nothing to do with the other person. Whenever you're angry at somebody else and talking at them or trying to harm them or trying to get justice, it has nothing to do with the other person. It is a vain desire on your part to try and feel as though you're a solid identity again. And so it's really about you accepting you. This is why people who are healthy, truly healthy people, when you do something that hurts them, their response is to say, that's really hurtful. I feel that really hurt me deeply, and I'm deeply saddened by that. And I'm sad that you don't love me the way that I love you, or you don't see me the way that I see you. It really hurts me. That's what they talk about. They don't talk about, how dare you talk about me like that. Not only am I not that, what you said I was, I'm more than that. In fact, I'm better than you are. This is the narrative of the super empath. This is the narrative of the Heyoka. This is the narrative of the starseed. These are people whose identity has been wounded, or at least they have the perception that their identity has been wounded. And so in order to overcompensate, they turn themselves into these walking martyrs. I'm so sensitive. I'm more sensitive than you. I have more empathy than you. I've come from a higher dimension. You haven't. You're a third dimensional, just less evolved, and I'm here to help you. But it's so hard on me. It's so painful. And I'm such a victim. But God, please forgive them. They know not what they do. Worship me. What it means is it's an overcompensation for feeling less than. Anybody who says that they are superior to you in any way, or hints that they're superior to you in any way, you know right off the bat they don't like themselves. They feel insecure. To go back even deeper than that, to understand that all resentment comes from a need to be loved and seen. Remember, the first part is the wound to your ego, the wound to your identity. I'd rather use the word identity because people, again, misuse the word ego like it's bad, like they don't have an ego. People have come on here and said, oh yeah, I don't have an ego. And I know right off the bat, this is Heyoka super empath, chronically untreated codependent, self-denying, I don't have any negative feelings, I'm loving. I already know right off the bat what's going on with them. I don't have an ego. Because they put ego as something bad. Ego is just the Greek and the Latin word for I. Ego eimi means I am. Ego sum, I am. So ego isn't bad. You have to have an ego or you wouldn't exist. So it's an attack on your identity. Who and what you believe you are, which is an illusion. It's not an illusion that you have an ego, at least, on the levels we're talking about. That isn't the illusion. The illusion is that your identity is what you think it is. When you grew up, you decided that you created a character. You created an avatar that became your identity. Somebody attacks that. Your worth is going to be based on the identity you've created. If you have grown up to believe that you are a spiritual person, you are a spiritual person, you've gone to church or temple all your life, and you do all the prayers and the mantras or whatever it is, and you see yourself. Your sense of safety comes from the feeling that you are this spiritual, religious person, and somebody comes at you and says that you're a hypocrite, that you don't believe what you say, that it's just some made-up religion, you're just pretending. You're going to get angry. How dare you say that about me? How dare you attack who I am and what I say, who I say I am? That's your avatar. So what that person won't understand in that moment, and this is, again, I'm talking from personal experience here. And this isn't just observation. This is my own personal experience as well. That, for me, mine is when people accuse me of thoughts and intentions that I didn't have. So, and this is something I've run into. I grew up with this. I would get attacked this way all throughout my childhood. My brother, my parents, they would accuse me of having thoughts and feelings that I didn't have. So when somebody attacks me for wanting to harm them or thinking negatively of them, or that I have some judgment against them, when I'm having the exact opposite feeling, I'm feeling very loving towards them, I care about them, my initial reaction in the past has been to get very angry at that. And that's because my identity has been attached to the idea of being a good person, a kind, loving person. And so when people misunderstand me or they project their, because that's usually what's happening, they're projecting onto you. My reaction has been in the past to get angry. Do you listen to by the way, are you listening to my verbiage here? I'm talking about it in the past. I'm saying in the past I've responded. Do you know why I do that? So that I don't perpetuate it going forward. So you can do this as well. If you have something that has been an issue right up until that very moment, you can say, in the past, I have, and that way you're telling your brain not to identify with it. So in the past, when people have accused me of things that I wasn't thinking and I wasn't feeling, I'd get very angry. And the reason for that is because my personal desire, my expectation is that people will feel the love that I have for them, and they'll feel loved and they'll love me back. And I think that's pretty normal and pretty human. But because I had an insecurity about that, because my family constantly gaslit me out of my positive and loving feelings all the time, and would accuse me of thinking and doing things that I wasn't thinking and doing. I was very sensitive about that because my ego, my identity, that was a very important part of my identity, which means it was important for me that people saw me that way. I wanted people to see that in me. So when they didn't, my avatar would start to crumble and I would get very defensive and I'd get very angry. But the way that I have overcome many of those resentments is to go back to what my expectation is. And my expectation is that they will see it and feel it and return those feelings to me. And when they don't, I get upset. I get hurt. I get angry. I didn't get what I wanted. So it doesn't matter how horrible the attack was, even if it's physical. If somebody attacks you and harms you, some of the harm is very real, and some of it is purely ego-based. And there's some in the middle where it's a little of both. But it doesn't matter whether it's a real attack or an imagined attack. The bottom line is you had expectations that weren't met. You didn't get what you wanted. So this is the difference between if you're in a relationship and your partner cheats on you, steals money out of your bank account, runs away with her boss or with his secretary and goes off and cheats on you and remarries them and divorces you. The difference between the person who's filled with rage and the person who is sad and then heals from it is the person who's sad becomes aware that they simply weren't getting what they wanted. I wanted to be with that person. I loved them and I wanted them to love me, and they didn't. They wanted something else. They wanted that other person. And there's nothing I can do about that. And in order to be in a position of wishing them well, imagine somebody who says that, and this would be a very difficult thing to do. Imagine that happens to somebody. And then you talk to them a year later and they say, well, it didn't work out. I was really in love with that person and I was deeply hurt and deeply scarred that they left me. But you know what? I want them to be happy. And if that's what makes them happy, I still love them and I want them to be happy. And I'm not carrying any pain because I realize that they didn't love me the way I loved them. That's a very hard place to be. A lot of people talk that game and they don't mean it. A lot of people talk that game and try and mean it. They're still in denial. But somebody who can say that, you can say that person loves the other person unconditionally. And this is what is necessary for 5D. You have to love everybody unconditionally. Unconditionally means there's no conditions. So the person I talked about earlier, who, as I've said, there are many of the love and light crowd who, many of the, and again, super Heyokas, super empaths, starseeds, the chosen ones, it's all the same thing. We're all talking about people who are deeply, deeply wounded, who desperately, and there's nothing wrong with this, but they desperately, desperately want to be seen and loved and valued and validated. They deeply, deeply want this. They want it so bad that it feels like if they don't get it, it will kill them. And they've been programmed to believe it. They've chosen to accept that programming. Listen to my communications. They've chosen to accept that programming. And now their avatar depends on the other person seeing them as a healer. So the codependent person, what they want is they don't want the other person to say, just to say, I love you. They want the other person to say, I need you. Do you see the difference? So when you no longer need somebody's validation to feel whole, then you're in a position to love them unconditionally. So for instance, as you know, I'm a surfer, and that's the only thing I'm interested in. That's the only thing that's really keeping me here on this planet, besides the fact that my body's still functioning. As I've gotten older and as I've been lifting more weights and getting heavier, more muscle, but it takes a lot more oxygen for me to go out there and paddle. It's a lot more work to get myself doing what I love doing. So as a result, I need bigger surfboards. That's hard on my ego, because I remember being 150 pounds and surfing toothpicks and all that. Now I have to surf bigger, larger boards. And so I had a board that I had made some years back, and I kept it because it was such an amazing board. But the truth is, it's just too small for me. So I didn't want to sell it. So there's a person here that I know, and I said, do you want this board? I just want it to go into somebody who's going to enjoy it. I had it made specifically, for me, and it's an amazing board. I just can't really enjoy it like I used to. I want somebody else to. So the other person said, yeah, I would love to take it. Once I put that board into his hand, I forgot about it. Since I've seen him, he said numerous times, I haven't surfed your board yet. Like, he thinks I'm going to get mad if he hasn't surfed it yet. And the truth is, I've already forgotten about it, because it was an unconditional gift. I don't need anything from him. He even offered to pay me. I said, I don't want any money. I just want somebody to enjoy it. That's it. That's all I want. And then I felt good that this beautiful, valuable, it's a very valuable surfboard, is in the hands of somebody, if they decide to, will enjoy it. But what he does with it now is, I don't care. I don't have any conditions on it. So to be able to love somebody unconditionally means you literally want nothing back from them. The only thing you want is their happiness. Now, that's a very hard thing to achieve. But if you have resentment, guaranteed you are not in that state. If you have sadness, like if you have grief that won't go away, you are not in that state. And I'm not trying to denigrate those experiences, because you have to acknowledge them. The first step to detaching, and by detaching we mean detaching your sense of self, your ego, your identity, detaching your identity from that initial desire you had. The first step to that is acknowledging the emotions that you're having. And when you act out in anger, you are acting out in denial. You think, oh, they're obviously in connection with their feelings because look at how angry they are. No, they are denying their deepest feelings, which are going to be feelings of loss and hurt. They're acting out on anger. They're trying to deny the hurt. The hurt is more painful than the anger, so they go into the anger. And then those who, the passive-aggressive type, who go into the guilt, which, by the way, guilt never lasts. Eventually, guilt builds up and explodes. This is why people who act like doormats eventually explode on you. because the guilt doesn't work. It's a strategy that won't ever work, ever. You'll just prolong it, and then you'll explode. And the thing is, if you're somebody who stuffs it down and you're a people pleaser, you don't realize that you have a selfish agenda. You tell yourself, I'm unselfish. But that is actually, you're trying to look unselfish so that people will go, look at how unselfish that person is. You don't know that. You think you really are doing it to be unselfish, and you don't realize you're doing it for a selfish desire. So I don't want to give out the feeling that this is something you can just snap your fingers and do. It's not. That's why there's 12 steps to 5D. You have to work, you have to do, not just read them. If you're going on to that and reading them and listening to me talk about it, but you're not doing them, you won't know how these things can transform you. But what those 12 steps will do is they will give you the ability to detach from your ego agenda, which is a made-up agenda that your ego has made up in order to function. So you can completely change who you are. Absolutely change who you are, and you can become a different person. You can change from a person who, when somebody doesn't give you what you want, you get hurt and angry, hurt and wounded, and sad and depressed, and all of that, or angry. And you can change from that person to somebody who doesn't get angry when other people don't give you what you want. Because if you don't have any expectation on what somebody else is going to feel or do, they can't hurt you. If that, again, I gave that surfboard to that guy, and all I wanted was somebody to enjoy it because I enjoyed it. And I wanted to make sure that it went into the hands of somebody that would appreciate it. Now, if he comes back to me tomorrow and says that he broke it, or that, it didn't work for him and he sold it, I wouldn't, I might for a second go, well, that's a bummer, but I wouldn't get angry at him because I don't want anything from him. I don't need him to see me as a good guy. I don't need him to thank me. I only want that really wonderful piece of equipment to go in the hands of anybody who will appreciate it. And if that doesn't happen, I'll be okay too. But imagine, being in the space, as I said earlier, where somebody rejects you and you eventually work through the hurt and the pain, and you can honestly say, it didn't work out, and I obviously wasn't the right person for him or her, and they were the wrong person for me. And I just want them to be happy, whatever it is. And I don't spend any time thinking about it. I don't cry about it. I'm not angry. I'm not sad. I don't miss them. I honestly only want them to be happy. That is the goal. And that's not something you can deny yourself into. When you do this, especially the fourth step, when you do the fourth step and you get to the my part, you don't know what I'm talking about, go watch the video. When you get to the part where you look at my part, what you're really looking at is your expectation, what you wanted from them that you didn't get. And when you become aware that the only reason that you're still hanging on to anger is because you want something you're not getting, then you become aware that you are being selfish. So it's impossible to be angry without being selfish. It's also impossible to be guilty without being selfish. So if I say that because I know there are people listening to me that go, oh, I'm not angry. I'm not angry. It's just, and they get very sad and they're full of guilt and all that. And guilt, again, is rage. Guilt is homicidal rage turned inward. Like I said, when people off themselves, we could say they're full of guilt, but they're doing it to get back at somebody. They're doing it to harm somebody. They're doing it so that other people, it's a desire to get other people to feel what they are feeling. I'm going to make you feel what I'm feeling. And somehow they think that's going to make them feel better, which it doesn't. Now you got two people who are in a lot of pain. So when it gets to 5D, you can't go to 5D if you have selfish agendas. And by selfish, I don't mean in the good way of selfish. I mean in me versus you kind of selfish. And whenever you're angry, it's always a me versus you. Always. Always a me versus you. And in the fifth dimension, there is no me versus you. There's just us. So you know what's interesting? When my higher dimensional friends talk to me, they never, one of the first things is they never talk about anybody else. Even if they're talking to me about something that applies to maybe the whole human race, they never say you plural. They only say you singular. I mean me. And they never talk bad about anybody. I don't care who it is. They will never say anything negative about any other conscious being in the universe. At the worst I've ever heard them say is that person is learning a lesson about. That's the most negative they've ever gotten about somebody else. And when they say that to me, it actually gives me compassion for them, and it helps me to understand them. It doesn't put me in a state of feeling any superior or any different. I go, oh, I can relate to that. Oh, I hope they find that. But that, again, is like 1%. The 99% of the communication is they always say you singular to me, but when they talk about themselves, they always say we. I've never once, well, I can't say that. That's not entirely true, because in different situations, which I don't have time to get into. But the vast majority of the time, they say we. We want you to know. We feel. And this is why, as it turns out, the elves in my native pre-Christian tradition, the elves, elf means light being. And that's the direct translation of elf, is light being, shining one. And our ancestors not only worshipped them, but communicated with them and strongly associated the light beings, the elves, with the ancestors. And these are the ancestors that all shamans interact with. Whenever people say that the ancestors told me, they mean the elves, the shining ones, the light beings, the beings that we now perceive as extraterrestrials. Which, by the way, as you know, are not aliens. Aliens are humans pretending to be extraterrestrials. And that's why the difference between interacting with a light being and interacting with an alien is that alien interactions are always in the third dimension, always. You can't take somebody physically hostage and experiment on them in the fifth dimension. It doesn't work. Physically, it doesn't work. The third dimension is the only place that you can abduct someone and physically interact with them. So aliens are not light beings, they're humans pretending to be aliens, using technology and all kinds of other crazy, really advanced, destructive things. Light beings, they have, anyway, the point being is that they always associate with the collective. They always say we. Which means that they are in a constant state of knowing that what is good for them is good for others, and vice versa. There is never a situation where a light being goes, let me see, is that, would that be, if that thing I want, would that be also bad for others? Which again, the law of one, why you should completely stop listening to all of the ufology nonsense, including the law of one. Because the law of one is based on this nonsense that if you are 51% devoted to others, then you're good enough to evolve. But if you're 49%, or if you're 51% devoted to yourself, and the assumption is that there's a possibility of that, and there isn't. It's an illusion. There is never, ever, never has there been, never will there be a scenario when acting for the joy of your soul doesn't also empower and give joy to all other souls. It doesn't mean that in the third dimension people won't get mad at you or get hurt or or anything like that, because when you do what is good for your soul, oftentimes you are going directly against people's delusion about, again, if we, like, people who are people pleasers. People pleasers are very easy to anger. And that doesn't make any sense, right? Because on the surface, a people pleaser is somebody who pleases others. But they're not pleasing others because they want people to be happy, even though many of them are absolutely deludedly convinced that they are only here to help other people. The identity that they have adopted, which is I'm only here to help other people, is on an unconscious level at the very least, hoping that people will see them and love them back. Because as little kids, they were devalued. They were told, you don't have any value to me except for what you do for me. And so they said, oh, I will be a good person. I will be loved if I constantly meet other people's needs. And that's why people pleasers are constantly trying to guess ahead of time. They want to be able, in their fantasy, they want to be able to know what you need before you realize it. Because then you will see them as perfect. You will see them as these loving, beautiful creatures, and then you will give them value. You will approve of them. This is, again, why people pleasers, this happens on my channel all the time. If you confront them about their unconscious rage, or you confront them about their anything, if you destroy the narrative that they're trying to give to the world about themselves, and you challenge them on any of it, they get extremely defensive, and they will want to talk you into understanding why you don't understand them. They'll go, no, you don't understand me. No, you're not understanding what I'm saying. No, what I meant was, no, I really feel I need to help you understand where I am. That's coming from their unwillingness to accept that they have a selfish agenda and they have a desperate need to be accepted and loved, and that they need to be devalued. Here's something else you need to understand. If you're a people pleaser and you know, you can relate to what I'm saying, that what's important to you is that people see how much you care about them and how much you love them. I shared about mine where, if people in the past saw me differently than what my real intention was, I got very angry. I got very insecure. Not because it had anything to do with whether or not I really did care about them or not. It was them, what they thought about me was more important than the actual truth. And so this is common with people pleasers. If you don't see them as being perfect, then they get very uncomfortable, and then they have to convince you. And then what will happen is if you're not easily convinced right off the bat, then the strangest thing is they will attack the hell out of you. They will start just ad hominem attacks. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've been in this kind of situation where I pointed out some inconsistency in some people pleaser's statement or behavior, and then they will initially try and passive aggressively say, no, you're not right, and this is why I need to help you understand. And then I will, no, this is why I'm challenging you on this. The next thing they do is they don't go, I wonder if that's true about me. They never say that. They then start attacking me, like really personally. And it'll be interesting because I'll go, to the best of my knowledge, I haven't personally attacked you, and yet here you are attacking me. And that usually sort of throws them in a weird, the sparks start flying out of their head. But it shows you very quickly that people pleasers get angry. That what's underneath their need to placate you and explain to you, what's underneath that is incredible insecurity. And if you don't appeal to their ego, the self debasing ego, that I'm rising above that all. If you don't appease that ego, they will get very, very angry, and they will become very hostile, very aggressive. So bottom line is, this is all a bunch of talk just to try and help you understand that anytime that you're angry, it means that you're operating from a 3D self narrative that you can't get out of. And the only way out of it is to acknowledge what it is that you wanted from the other person that you're not getting. The selfish desire. You must assume if you are angry, and you're angry for more than a day, and that's being generous. If you're angry at somebody for more than a day, it means that you have a selfish agenda that's not being met. And that will not survive in the fifth dimension. You will not be able to carry that into the fifth dimension. And the only reason is because the vibration just won't tolerate it. You won't be able to function there. You won't be able to exist there. So for all of you, no matter who you are, no matter how you look at yourself, you see yourself as a starseed. I believe in the idea of starseeds, but then again, I would go so far as to say that every single human on the planet is a starseed. The only difference is whether or not you've awakened to it or not. If you see yourself as a super empath, I'm not denying that you don't have a deep sensitivity to other people's feelings. But the question is, how did you get that sensitive? Did you get that sensitive because you're superior and you're more evolved? That you come from a higher dimension? Maybe you do. I do. But that doesn't magically give you the ability to feel superior to others. But the question is, how did you become so sensitive in this life? And I have the answer for you if you choose to hear it. People who call themselves super empaths, the chosen ones, heyokas, and what they'll say to you is, I am super sensitive to other people's feelings. That is because when they were kids, their value came from knowing other people's pain and being able to fix it. They weren't fixing other people's pain because they honestly wanted to help. They were fixing other people's pain because if they didn't, they wouldn't be accepted and loved. And that is an ego, that is a narcissistic ego point of view. And then they grow up, and that's why they have an agenda to feel so deeply and feel so intensely. And the idea is that you can have feelings for other people and you can see yourself in other people. But when you no longer have the need for them to be anything, then you've achieved the detached love that the higher dimensional beings have. Because that's my experience of them. My experience of them is that they're not codependent in the slightest. And that if I start going into my own narcissistic, hamster wheel, they just back off. They don't try and fix me. They don't try and stop it. Sometimes they might give me little signs here and there to wake me up a little bit. But if I don't listen, they just leave me alone. And this is all that we can do for everybody else. We're heading into a time as we continue in the shift. So let me just, for all of you heyokas out there, for all of you heyokas and starseeds and super empaths and chosen ones, let me just give you another message that was given to me. Your service on this planet has come to an end. Now you no longer have to worry about anybody else's feelings about you. You no longer have to worry about fixing anybody's pain or anybody's misery. If somebody asks for your help, you can give it to them, of course. You can send them positive energy. But now that you have been relieved of your duty, you no longer have to, your service on this planet has come to an end, which means you no longer have to fix anybody else. You now have permission to not fix somebody. Somebody you can see, somebody's completely bonkers, out of their mind, totally missing it in whatever way. They're drinking themselves to death. They're shooting drugs in their neck. They're whatever they're doing, they're gambling, whatever their problem is, you now have permission directly from the ancestors to not engage with them, to not try and help them. You listen to what I'm using my words very carefully. You now have permission to not try and help them. That's different from being available if they do ask for help. Because this shift is only going to be for those who choose it. And that means people who are willing. Again, let me give you the example that never happens. Never happens. When somebody's trapped in their ego craziness and they're coming at you, right? And they're throwing their expectations on you. And sorry, I got distracted. My train of thought got distracted. What was it that I wanted to say? Anyway, maybe it'll come back to me. Anyway, we'll leave it there for now. Again, if you want what I'm talking about, my 3 suggestions are this, and I believe this will help you make the shift. Because again, the shift is going to be something that you participate in. You have to choose it. It's not going to happen to you. If you do nothing, you can be guaranteed that nothing will happen. But if you want to completely change and shift, you are going to have to take some internal actions. And it is my experience that the awareness that you need to take action isn't enough. You actually have to have workable tools, a workable strategy, and you have to be willing to do that strategy, and you have to be willing to face some feelings and some awarenesses within yourself that are going to be uncomfortable. And I can't speak for everybody, but I know that's going to be the case for a lot of people. It's certainly the case for me. So the 3 things that I recommend is, number 1, I recommend that you do the free guided interdimensional meditations on this channel. These aren't the only things I recommend. I'm just going for the most important. I recommend that you do that. Second thing that I recommend that you do is you do the energy work in the meditations, whether it's the Huul breath, H-U-U-L breath, or whether it's the Huar breath or Awakening the Immortals or any of the other energy meditations I have. That's the second thing that I recommend you do that on a daily basis. Number 3, I recommend that you do the 12 steps to 5D no matter who you are. Worst case scenario is it'll only make you happier. That's the only thing that you can be guaranteed, even if you don't think you need it. It can't hurt you. There are people, this is, again, I've had to learn this lesson, but there are people who are continuously in the same pain all the time for decades and years. And I've come to them and I've said, there's a way out of this. You can stop having this same cycle happen to you over and over again. Just work the 4th step. Now, that's unsolicited advice, what I just shared with you. Going to somebody who's in pain and telling them, here's the way out. And then they get furious and they put 100 times more effort into defending why they don't need to do it and what an asshole I am for suggesting it. If they put literally, 1% of that energy into actually trying it, they would see. But what they end up not asking, the question that people don't ask when they are trapped in their ego hamster wheel, is they never stop to go, I wonder if there's a different way that I could handle this. They never ask that. And that's a crazy delusion. If somebody truly, for instance, like if somebody isn't in denial, and you go to somebody and you say, I think you might have an addiction, for example. If somebody wasn't in denial, they would go, really? Well, what is the solution? If they weren't in denial, that would be their first question. When you go to the doctor, for instance, and you've got some infection, and you're not you don't have an ego about having the infection or not having infection. You just go, wow, I've got this boil on my, and you walk into the doctor and the doctor says, oh, you have an infection. Your first response isn't to go, I do not. I can't believe you would say that about me. Telling me that I have some kind of infection just because there's some pus and some blood coming. I did that on purpose. I can't believe that you would judge me that way and tell me that I have an infection. And the doctor's like, I was just going to tell you to take the antibiotics. That's all. But what you do when you go to the doctor and you have that, you say, I have this thing, and the doctor looks at it and goes, oh, I can see some pus there. You have an infection. Your first response, if you're not in denial, is to go, oh, thank God, I finally know what the problem is. What should I do? Well, and the doctor will give you some medications or something. You'll go, thank you, and you'll follow his instructions, and a week later, somebody will ask you, what happened to that thing on your shoulder? And you go, what thing? Oh, that. Oh, yeah, I almost forgot about that. Yeah, I had that little infection right there. But if you're in denial, and I'm telling you, because you're coming onto my channel, this isn't unsolicited advice, because you're coming onto my channel watching me. You want to know what I have to say, or you wouldn't be here. So if I'm telling you that if you're still angry, or if you're still depressed, or you're still in pain, the thing to do is to work the fourth step. If your first response is, oh, that's interesting, but I don't need that, I'm going to tell you you're in denial. Because if you weren't in denial and you were here to try and fix a problem, you would go, tell me how to do that. Well, I got nothing to lose. What is it? It's only going to take me like 10 minutes, and I just make some lists on the thing, and I try and look at what my expectation. That's all I have to do? Right. And then that'll fix it? Yeah. Well, hell, I'll do that. I can do that. No, but what do you do instead? Oh, I don't need to do that. No, I don't. I want you to talk more about how I'm a victim. No, I want you to talk more about the crazy fifth dimensional aspect. I want you to show me pictures of UFOs. I don't want to just spend 10 minutes and write something on a list. I don't want to do that. I want you to get me out of this crazy feeling, Mahadeva. That's why I'm here. I need to be distracted. Oh my God, what's happening in the news? Oh my God, what is the deep state doing? Oh my God, distract me. So if you want to prove to yourself that you're not in denial, follow my directions. You got nothing to lose. The majority, the 12 steps is, you don't have to pay anything for that. It won't cost you anything. So prove to me, I'm appealing to your codependence. Prove to me that you're not in denial by doing what I suggest. Because if you're going to walk away from this video and you're in anger, you have a problem with that, you have depression, or you have whatever it is, and you know that it's something that won't go away, and you're not willing to do the 12 steps to 5D, or you're not willing to do more than just read them and then justify it intellectually to yourself, then I'm going to tell you you're in denial. Because the person who's not in denial would go, I can do that. That's easy. I'll do it today. Where are the videos? Tell me where to go find them. All right, so we're going to leave it there. I'll leave that on your shoulders to worry about. And again, if you're in Queensland on the 29th of October, you can see it there. I will be at the Lakeside Contact, whatever this is. I don't know. Anyway, it's the first UFO conference I've ever spoken at. Again, if you're dead serious about doing the shift, go subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Challenge, and you can unsubscribe whenever you want. 923.thunderwizard.com if you want the most powerful energy practices on the planet. Save yourself something like $4,500. And my books, Interdimensional Revolution, Extraterrestrials Are Coming to Earth, and The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. You can find it at michaelwilliamdenny.com, or you can go to Amazon, Kindle, and Audible and find them there as well. As I have said in the past, I don't take any questions unless you are subscribed to the thunderwizard.com website, not the channel. Don't tell me I'm subscribed to the channel and ask a question. That's not what I'm saying. Pay attention. If you're subscribed to the Warrior 90-Day Challenge at thunderwizard.com, and I recognize you, I will consider answering your questions. Otherwise, I'm not answering any questions. So let's see what we got here. Cats and me, I'm pretty sure this person is subscribed. Question, I've had resentments and some go away on their own, leaving a scar. That's not how it works. A resentment doesn't go away and leave a scar by itself. That's not how it works. So I'm here to tell you that I'm not saying that that's not your experience. There's something missing in that equation. Let me continue. I've had resentments and some go away on their own, leaving a scar. Time healed it. Is this common in the human condition? No. You're contradicting yourself. When a resentment goes away, there's no scar. When a resentment goes away, meaning you've really healed the resentment, you become aware what you did to become resentful. And you go, yeah, I used to be really angry at this person until I realized that I was being selfish. I kept wanting them to love me, or I wanted to get lucky with this girl, or I wanted, that guy to do this for me or do that for me, and I wanted them to think a certain way of me, and I realize now that it's not my business, and I realize I love myself now. I don't need them to love me, take care of me, give me what I want. So no, you asked me about that person. Yeah, that person was hurtful to me, but I don't have any scar. So the scar is denial. The fact that you say it goes away and leaves a scar means that you no longer consciously feel it, but you are now unconsciously, you've stuffed it down and you're full of rage. So it hasn't healed. It's a great question, but that's called stuffing your anger down. All right, what else? Any other questions? I don't know, Gospel Adept. Gospel Adept, are you subscribed to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong? I don't recognize you. That question, to me, number one, I don't recognize you. Maybe you are subscribed, maybe you're not. This is why I don't take questions. It's very superficial question and it's very general. Is materialization possible? For who? I want to answer questions that help you. How does that question help you? If you tell me that you say, I want to be able to materialize into other dimensions, or I want to see other beings materialize from other dimensions, and you ask that question, then I know how to best help you. If you're just throwing out a question like that and you're not revealing why you're asking it, I can't help you. We're just throwing intellectual things at each other and we're not accomplishing anything. So this is why I want people to ask deeper questions coming from themselves. So if you can, first of all, tell me if you are subscribed to the 90-Day Challenge, and if you can tell me why you're asking that question, how you personally are going to benefit from it, I will answer that question. I'll give you my opinion. Maybe I won't answer it. I'll give you my opinion. Christine Alexandra, you're not asking a question, but I do want to respond to your comment. You say, I'm afraid to make alien contact. First, let me tell you that the beings that you will interact with, if you do what's called CE5, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, or the version I do, which is interdimensional meditation, the beings you will encounter are not aliens. So go back and watch this, and again, read my book. I've written 2 books on ETs, especially Interdimensional Revolution. I will prove to you that aliens have nothing to do with extraterrestrial beings of light. The fear that you have isn't just because of religious brainwashing, which is definitely part of it, but it's also from mainstream media, movies, and being a third dimensional human, you are just instinctively afraid of things in higher dimensions. But you will find out that if you want to get over your fear, then do the meditations. You got nothing to lose. I guarantee you nothing bad will happen to you. I give you my word. Absolutely nothing bad will happen to you. No evil beings will come near you. If it makes you feel better, I can tell you this: no evil being can touch me. Any evil being comes anywhere near me, they will run. That includes demons, ghosts, evil people. They cannot get near me. I now give that protection to you. So if you do this, I can guarantee you that my energy will protect you from anything negative. You owe it to yourself to find out whether or not this is true. Because in the 5th dimension, in this new world that I think is coming. I can't prove it to you. I might be wrong. But this new world that's coming is going to be a world where human beings are going to be in direct contact, interacting with beings from higher dimensions, other civilizations, and there will be no such thing as having to, have bodyguards or protect yourself, or none of that. You will never have to worry about that in higher dimensional. It's only here in the third dimensional Earth that you have to worry about that. But even in the third dimension, it's possible to be completely, totally protected at all times. And I can promise you that if you follow my directions, you can be completely protected. You don't have to. If you don't want to do CE5 or interdimensional meditation, that's your right. But I think if it's something that you're talking about, you owe it to yourself to at least find out. What's the worst that could happen? What else? Cats and me question. I don't know what that is. Are the Ars Goatia? I don't even know what that is. Cats and me, this is again a reason why I don't answer questions. Why are you asking me questions about things I've never talked about? I've never even heard of that before. You assume I know what that means. How is it that you don't know? I've been on my channel this long that I've never once talked about that. Whatever that is, unless you misspelled something, because I don't know what Ars Goatia is. Cats and me, you say you're looking for entities to work with that will empower you to help get through your inner turmoil. I've already taught you how to do that. Why are you trying to do something? Again, if you follow instructions, you'll get what you want. Why are you doing something? Why aren't you following instructions? Interdimensional meditation tells you how to contact higher dimensional beings that will give you power. Why are you making things difficult? Why are you, this is a very annoying question. Because again, I get annoyed when people don't follow directions, and you're clearly, not only you're not following directions, you want to follow you want to make up something and then talk about something I never talked about, and then you want to ask me about it like I'm going to, I don't, I don't know how to play Chinese checkers, so don't ask me about something I don't know. Why are you wasting both of our times? All right, that's it, guys. See, again, this is why I don't answer questions, because I get annoyed, and I don't like myself when I'm annoyed. All right, that's it, guys. I love you all so much. Thank you for showing up again. Again, do the 12 steps to 5D if you really care about me. This is my request for you today. Go to the 12 steps to 5D videos. I haven't finished all of them, but you can get up to step 6, which will definitely get rid of the resentments. So go do that. And if you do that, you will empower me. I will feel more empowered. The rest of the universe, including higher dimensional beings and deities, will become more empowered because you did what you could to take a look at your 3D selfish behavior that gets you and everybody else in trouble. And so thank you for showing up. I love you all. I wish you all the best. And until next time, if the flash don't come, and if the flash don't come and I don't get taken up to the Starship Enterprise, I will see you guys all very soon. Take care.